The forest doesn't hate you. But it doesn't care if you come back either. It swallows sound. It hides the sky. And when you're deep enough in, past the marked trails, past the places with names, you stop being a visitor. You become something else. Watched. Measured. Maybe even followed. Because out there, in the stillness between trees, there are things that don't sleep. Things older than fences and trail maps. Things that never left. These are 3 horrifying true stories from deep in the woods. From people who thought they were alone. They weren't. The thing that waited by the fire. Nathan wasn't afraid of the woods. He grew up around them, hunting, hiking, pitching tents since he was 12. So when he decided to solo hike through the North Cascades, he didn't bring much. Just a pack, some jerky, a water filter, and a fire starter. The first day was smooth. A long hike in. No cell service. No sounds but the wind in the pines and the distant groan of old trees swaying. He made camp by a narrow creek and built a fire. As night fell, he sat quietly, eating, staring into the flames. And that's when it started. Cracks. Pops. Something stepping on branches just beyond the reach of light. He stood, turned, flashlight ready. But saw nothing. No eye shine. No movement. Just forest. He forced himself to sleep. But in the morning, the fire was still warm. Not embers, warm, like someone had stoked it. And beside his log, where he'd been sitting, was another impression in the dirt. The shape of legs. Like someone had been sitting with him. Quietly. All night. Nathan didn't panic. He told himself it was nothing. Maybe he shifted in his sleep, maybe animals. But something felt wrong. Not just fear. Awareness. Like he wasn't just being watched. Like whatever it was, had already sat with him. He broke camp early, hiked deeper, trying to shake it off. That night, he didn't build a fire. Didn't cook. Just sat in his tent with his headlamp off, trying to sleep. The forest outside was dead quiet. No crickets. No wind. And then, a breath. Right behind the tent. Slow. Shaky. Too human to be an animal. He held still. Then it breathed again, louder, like something mimicking what he did the night before. Exhaling when he exhaled. Matching him. Nathan grabbed his light, unzipped the tent in one motion, and swept the beam. Just in time to catch a shape vanishing into the tree-line. Tall. Pale. And watching. He didn't sleep. He hiked through the night, didn't stop until he reached a forest road. But the worst part came later. When he told a friend what happened and they asked, "Did you bring everything back?" Nathan nodded, then paused. Because he hadn't. His knife was missing. And taped to the side of his fuel canister, he hadn't noticed until days later, was a note scratched in charcoal. "Next time, talk." The family in the forest. Kevin and Marcus were hunting partners. Not professionals, just 2 lifelong friends who took yearly trips deep into the Tennessee backwoods. This year, they chose a stretch of forest miles from the nearest road, marked only by worn deer trails and old ranger markers. It was foggy that morning. The air thick, muffled. No birdsong. No breeze. As they moved through the brush, Kevin stopped. Because someone was walking through the trees ahead of them. Not a deer. Not a hunter. A little girl. No shoes. No jacket. Just a white nightgown, soaked from the knees down. She didn't look scared. She wasn't crying. She was just walking slowly, calmly, between the trees. Kevin called out. She stopped. Then turned her head, just slightly. And smiled. They rushed after her, but the fog thickened around them. For a moment they thought she was gone, until they saw it. A cabin. Small. Low to the ground. Overgrown. Not on any map. And the girl was already at the door. The girl stood in the doorway, still smiling. She didn't speak. Just looked at them like she'd been expecting them. Inside the cabin, it was dark. Dusty, but not abandoned. There was a fireplace, still warm, a wooden table, and on the floor, in a perfect circle, hand-carved dolls. Each one different. Each one staring outward. Kevin stepped inside, but Marcus hesitated. The air smelled like mold and something old, like wet wood that had never dried. Then the girl finally spoke. "They don't like visitors." Her voice was flat. Not scared. Just matter of fact. Kevin asked who they were. But she was already walking toward the far wall. That's when Marcus saw them. Eyes. Dozens of them. Peering through the cracks between the boards. Too high off the ground to be animals. Still. Unblinking. Watching. When he turned back to Kevin, the girl was gone. Just gone. They bolted. Didn't mark their trail. Didn't look back. They tried to return days later with rangers. No cabin. No clearing. Just forest. They checked satellite images. Nothing but trees. And yet, Kevin kept one of the dolls. He never told Marcus. But 2 weeks later, he found another one on his front porch. Identical. Fresh. Still wet from the rain. Buried in the snow. Eli was used to riding alone. He ran winter supply routes in rural Alaska, long hauls through frozen valleys and dense pine. Snowmobile, GPS, radio. That was it. One January afternoon, the sky dropped fast. A whiteout. Blizzard winds, visibility near zero. He veered off trail looking for shelter and found what looked like a rocky overhang near a cluster of frozen trees. It was just tall enough to crawl inside. Dry. Cold. But protected. He unpacked a tarp, lit a small fire, and settled in. Then he saw it. A notebook, tucked into a dry pocket of stone. Bound with twine. He opened it. Fresh writing. Clean ink. Recent pressure. But the last dated entry was from February, 1974. And the handwriting from the last page matched the first. Except the name at the bottom? Eli. He hadn't written it. Eli tried to laugh it off. Told himself someone had the same name. A coincidence. But the handwriting looked just like his. Slanted the same way. Even the way he dotted his I's. He shoved the notebook back into the crack in the stone. Tried to sleep. But around 2 a.m., he woke up freezing. Colder than the storm outside. His fire had gone out. No wind. But the temperature had dropped like something had sucked the warmth out of the cave. Then he heard it. Scratching. Not from outside. From beneath him. Soft at first. Then stronger. He stood up fast, swept his light around. The snow at the mouth of the cave was rippling. Like something was crawling just under the surface. He didn't wait. Packed his gear in seconds, ran out into the storm. His snowmobile was gone. No tracks. No drag marks. Just packed, frozen snow, like something had come up from below and taken it. He hiked nearly 10 hours through whiteout conditions. Frostbitten. Delirious. When rescuers went back 2 days later, there was no cave. Just solid snow and a shallow indentation in the ground. They said he was lucky. That he'd found shelter in a drift. But he knows better. Because when he got home, thawed out, and unpacked his bag, the notebook was inside. And the last page had changed. It didn't say Eli anymore. It said, "You're next." The forest doesn't scream. It doesn't chase you down. It doesn't need to. It waits. It watches. And when the time is right, it opens its arms and lets you walk straight in. The woods have always been a place people go to get away. From cities, from noise, from the weight of the world. But if you go far enough, deep enough, you'll find that you're not the only one hiding there. Some things in the forest have no names. Some don't need them. They don't flash teeth or growl from the shadows. They sit by your fire while you sleep. They stare through the cracks in old cabins, waiting. They press their hands beneath the ice, reaching just enough for you to see. They wear silence like skin. And when you hear them, it's already too late. The people in these stories didn't stumble into fairy tales. They didn't go looking for trouble. They just went out for one weekend, one trail, one night of solitude. But they found something older than trail markers. Something deeper than tree roots. Something that doesn't forget you once it sees you. And the worst part? Sometimes it follows. Sometimes it remembers. And sometimes, it waits until you're back home to let you know it never left. So if you ever find a cabin that isn't on any map, or hear your own name whispered from the trees, or see a figure standing just beyond the light of your fire, don't go back for your gear. Don't investigate. Don't answer when it says something only you should know. Just leave. And pray you weren't noticed. Because when the forest calls you by name, it means it plans to keep you.